Welcome back to the Queer at Age podcast. This is part two of Shane Cassidy's story. In part two, Shane covers his time at the helpline and some of the harrowing stories that he had dealt with in the past, and the gay spaces emerging and the fight to keep the gay spaces. Listeners are advised that in part two, there are references to drug use, violence, and sexual abuse. If you need help or support with any of these issues, please contact Joe at hereandI.org. Is that yourself?
No, we were, the only thing that we done was, I became I worked in Caravan, I done that phone lines there, which was a fucking learning curve. Something, again, with the likes of this, if we had even been able to record some of those calls from men in their 60s and 70s out in the countryside whose wives had died, and they were now beginning to come to, for the first time, even be able to voice that they were gay. For the calls, and that's a call I took. These are all calls I took from the calls, and plenty of them where nobody spoke. I think at that stage, we had as long as they're there, we don't hang up. And we had lines of term. I'm still here. It's okay not to talk. And my name's Shane. I'm one of the volunteers here. I'm going to be here as long as you're here. And it's okay to sit in silence. And if there's anything you want to talk about, even say hello, that's okay. And then, every 5 minutes chiming in, or every 2 or 3 minutes chiming in. And that's all right till the call goes on for an hour. And the person on the other side is so afraid, they're terrified. They can't talk. If you had that call recorded and you played it for some of the younger people today, I don't think they could comprehend that level of fear. And the young men calling, one who called, it's okay to talk about these people now, this is 30, 40 years ago, but a young boy who was still a schoolboy, shouldn't have been talking to him. We weren't allowed to talk to anybody under 16, I think. I can't remember. But I think I was breaking one of our bylaws by talking to him. But he had a boyfriend at school, and his mum had found a letter from his boyfriend to him. And his mum had left him in the house after a row of some description, and was on the way around to the boy's house with the letter.
Oh, God.
And this young boy had made his way to a telephone box, and I think he made some. He wanted to know how to get to London. That was his call. I need to know how to get to London. I can, and he said he had some clothes, and he was going to get he was going to hitch a ride on the boat to get to Scotland, but then he needed to get to London. Oh. And I said, you don't, I just thought, there's no way out of this. The only thing I can do is somewhere along the line, after comforting him and doing all, I needed to land him. I needed to lay some reality. I said, look, you'll end up in what they call a meat rack. I said, you'll end up in a place called Piccadilly Circus, where you will do whatever older men want you to do for very little money, or a burger and a Coke or whatever. It's not long, And we talked him down. He said, well, what do I do? And then his money ran out. We couldn't call out. I have no idea where that young boy went. And that, again, here the emotions come. That took me off the phone lines for a few weeks. I just couldn't comprehend, And I tried he said the money was running out, and I said, tell me where you are, describe where you are, and I'll come and I'll get you. Again, we could only go in twos, even at that, and he was underage, and his money ran out before he could accurately describe. And we were just left there with fuck me, what do we do? What do I do? Some teenage boys out there whose mom's just about to regret everything that she ever said and did. And the older men, and occasionally women, although there was lesbian line for them. But we still occasionally got one. And then we would give them lesbian lines number, because it's better for them to talk to another one. And then 8th helpline, but there was no other. Carfent at that time had a Saturday drop-in in the offices of Carfent, where Belfast Butterfly Club, as it was in the that very early. It wasn't even trans then. It was more for people who would have labeled themselves cross-dressers and transvestites. Although Michelle, who ran it, was probably one of the bravest people I've ever met. She was incredibly handicapped. She could barely walk. She drove one of those, little three-wheeler cars that are specially adapted, and walking upstairs, and there was two flights of big stairs to get up to the car fenders. And she ran it, and I think she was trans. She was Michelle. She was Michelle all day, every day. She had long hair and dressed in female clothing, and ran this group for. I went down to meet them once because I was getting out information on them. I had no idea who they were, what they were. Was there two of them? Was there 10 of them? And ended up, I had a really, really like informative meeting with them. Where like obviously most of them were more transvestite and wanted to dress, but they had changing area. They were allowed to change there and put on some makeup and get some. We'll put some wigs on and just sit around drinking coffee. That was it. That was like the level of,
Just a social
yeah,
outlet for people.
just somewhere to go once a month or once every, can't even remember how long it was on, but just once in a while that they could go and be something that approached who they were, long before Tina McComb came along, who fucking broke the barriers, and is ridiculed to this day. Well, fuck, brave. People think they're brave. Like that was just every day you go out of the house, Tina was unbelievably brave. Um, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't do it to this day. Um, but yeah, there wasn't much apart from dropping, there wasn't much for youth coming along that I knew of anyways. But more than I had.
And did you have any negative experiences with police at the time, or?
And if they were usually my cousin. You know what? I can't remember any. I remember, was it Darren Bradshaw?
Yep.
I was reasonably friendly with Darren. Darren was one of the people I would have liked when you're going into the parliament. You would have been there and, hey, Darren, what about you? How's it going? Had a dance with him maybe. Didn't know him very well, but enough from that, casually. Um, had found out he was a policeman. And he wasn't the only policeman on scene. I knew at least one more. But apparently Darren had said in his innocence that he at some stage was carrying a gun. And I think that's what made him more of a target anyway. But I had seen him a few days before he was shot. And I remember just thinking, oh, fuck, just fucked. Because we've just taken, and somebody in there knew Darren, found out what he was, and went and told whoever was responsible for his death. And what they done was they took a completely safe space and made it completely unsafe. If you can't be yourself there, then where the fuck can you be yourself?
And that was the Parliament Bar.
Parliament Bar. Well, I was there the opening night. Parliament Bar was the most amazing place I've ever been to. And but over the years, I've been to London and I've been to gay clubs and I've been to Dublin and, I've been, here, there, everywhere, even America. But I went to the opening night of the Parliament, and it was the first time we are gay, for gay people, come and drink and dance. And I walked through the free peas. I literally walked through them. I wasn't going around them. Fuck yous, I'm going through yous. And I walked through them with my head high, my chest out, and went up. It was absolutely throbbing with people. I mean, there wasn't a square inch not covered. Um, it was amazing. And what that was, we call it two guys who done it, Bernard. No, two straight guys who had been barmen, I think, in the Crow's Nest, and they had seen the opportunity. And so they owned it. It was amazing. It was just like, oh my God, we're on a par with every other city, you know. Um, the music was banging, you know, everybody was having a ball. And it was like, oh God, this is where we're going. This is that we're off now. And walking through the free piece was an absolute joy. You know, and they were there, not even a huge amount of them or anything, like, but there were enough there and they were trying to block your way in, and I was not walking around them. You know, I was thinking, right, you can have the rest of the fucking city, but you're not having this. This is my path. And walked through them and upstairs and proceeded to dance. And then that was the that was it. I was off. I was like, somewhere to dance and somewhere to be. Back to yard the hour, get your t-shirt off, whip it up, take loads of what I used to call artificial artificial recreational enhancement, i.e. ecstasy and other chemicals, and drink lots and be part of. It was the loved up generation and it was amazing. And yeah, I mean, I stopped drinking and drugging 30 years ago, but when I did it, it was the most amazing thing. I have no regrets about doing it. I had some of the best times of my life. Some of the things I'm really glad that there's no cameras around. But one
And
of
we have to say, keep out of reach of children, always read the label.
it's artificial recreational enhancement. Just put out the rest. But it changed the gas scene. And I think up until then we largely had our gas scene to ourselves. But the arrival of ecstasy and the sort of the party drugs meant straight people were within coming to gay clubs. And they were coming with their gay friends. And they were coming, lots of women coming because they felt safe. And everything changed again. And I don't think for the better. Um, it made me very angry at times. And I was forced into this conversation you just had all the time, you know, why don't you just fuck off? We have one club, one fucking bar. You have every other fucking club in the bar. So why don't you take your girlfriends clubbing? And when they get threatened or when they get, you know, argued with or when they get abused, why don't you stand up and fucking protect them? Why do we have to make room for you? You know, and I had this argument so many times until I just got so worn down by it. You know, why can't you even go, why can't we just have Saturday night? You know, you can have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. But even Saturday night would be like gay only, and we wouldn't hardly know if anybody's gay. No, the point is, if you're straight, you stay the fuck away out of respect for your gay friends, and you stay the fuck away for the people who won't come here because you're here because they're afraid of walking into their straight neighbours. Why don't you stay the fuck away and let those people who are still closeted and have one, you know, 3, 4 hours a week? And, you know, I would get confrontational again and get frustrated again. And it just felt like going back into the closet again because, you know,
Space is taken over.
you're just seen as antagonistic and heterophobic, as they used to, you know, say, or whatever, you know, they just can't listen to the reality of the situation. This is not just a dance. This is a safe space. We've worked so fucking hard to create this safe space over the years for people who aren't unseen, for people who do live outside the city, for people who may want to explore their sexuality, and you coming in fucks it all. Yeah, I'm still angry about that actually. You know, one of the things I hated about Kremlin.
So do you hear that now? Keep the straights out.
Yeah, no, I absolutely.
No, but the point is that specific groups need their spaces.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're separate, segregated spaces, and
I don't mind mixed spaces Monday, you know, Monday to Friday,
yeah.
fine. Go along, have a ball with all your mates, but out of respect, not out of been threatened to been thrown out of respect for your friends, stay the fuck away and go to one of your great, you know, many, many clubs where, especially these days, like Get people going to straight clubs now is not a big thing. But back in the day, again, like I used to go to Thompson's Garage. I was beaten to a pulp in Thompson's Garage by two guys. Um, I had to I was in hospital. Purely, and I like Thompson's Garage, I knew the DJs. One of the DJs used to work for me, and I knew the owners and I knew the door for it, as was Jill back in the day. And all the bouncers, they all knew me because I was in every club dancing. And, too long a story, but at the end of it, I complained about these guys or this company who pushed me down the stairs. And, uh, they threw them out eventually, and two of them were left behind, and they bided their time near the end of the night. And they jumped me and kicked the living daylights out of me. And I ended up like they were prosecuted. Um, they were Queen's University students. These were educated people, and so maybe back in those days, it was still that, still unfriendly, still like you were still afraid. I never went to the likes of Lush or Kelly's. Um, no, I stayed in my gay clubs where I felt safe. And Thompson Garage was relatively safe. That was um the only time I really felt threatened in it. But it was a great gay club. It's a big club now, but when people forget that before Thompson's Garage was a club, it was a bar. There was no upstairs in it, and they were running a gay night in it on a Monday night, and they put a trapeze swing up on it, and Gary Ford in Man Drag used to be up in the trapeze swing, like while and there was no upstairs. Long before it became the Monster Club it is now, gay people started it, and gay people took it because it was a bar space, and turned it into a nightclub, and then the rest is history. But they got to get people out eventually. So and there was lots of wee places like that started off. A fledgling gay scene, and to hear now that Kremlin has now basically gone is understandable with the university there, but still it was the LGBTQ community who fucking put the money in their accounts for decades. I was at the opening night of that as well, when it was owned by the Seamus and the other guy, the Australian guy, New Zealand guy.
Was that the night Teddy was on the top of the Land Rover with the bomb scare?
I don't know, maybe it was. I know I was there that night and seeing
That iconic moment.
her climbing on the top of the bonnet. Crazy. An amazing, like it or not, Teddy's still on the go, still doing bingo, still doing all the stuff. But in the day when drag was a lot more frumpy, shall we say, drag was sort of like it was more like trying to look like a woman, maybe your mom, actually, Along came this bodice wearing hooker shoes, hair, glasses, makeup, the whole lot, and also had the voice of a docker and the language of a docker. It was all look pretty until she opened her mouth, and then it was like, I'm not going to hear. And so again, one of those landmark moments where she climbed onto the bonnet of the police Land Rover as it was then. But going into Crandon in the early days, it was a lot different than it is now, of course, smaller. But it was still like, oh my God, like they've renamed it and they've reclaimed it, and it's for us, and it's amazing, and it's really glamorous inside, and it's not a rundown shack, and
Yeah, it's not a hidden.
Yeah, and it was on the street, and there was flags out. It was just
and it advertised itself as a space for gay people, the community.
And it was great. It was really, really well.
And that opened in 2000, was it? 2001?
No idea. I have no time scale, but
we'll find out and we'll put the year on the screen.
Yeah. But all of that's very recent history.
Mm-hmm.
All of it's very
So you haven't been out on the scene recently yourself?
No, I occasionally there's things on now, just starting now. The latest craze is sober raves, where our dances and raves for people over 30, over 40. And I've been to a few of those and still love dancing, still love to make an exhibition of myself, even at 67. In fact, I love doing it at 67. It's even more, you know what they say, like dance like nobody's watching. Fuck that. Dance like everybody's watching. Because if I'm dancing and they're not all watching, then I'm not dancing, you know. Very extrovert on the dance floor. And but I
Well,
haven't been on the scene because it's just not welcoming. You know, it's just not welcoming. There is nobody, there's no monetary value in older people now. You know, they don't want to provide, you know, one of the a common complaint amongst us, but not about me, I love going clubbing, but I mean, a lot of people want a bar that they go and sit in and talk. They might want some background music, but there's no monetary value in that. And so we're not valued. And you know, there's nobody creating, I suppose, what a lot of people, older people would want is a tea dance. You know, they used to have one in Dublin and used to advertise it as from Mozart to Madonna. You know, so the music would start off very classical and low and build up to sort of Madonna would have been, you know, the dance music of the day. Um, there's no monetary value in that, and it is a, you know, so we have little or no value, and there's little or no respect out there for the fact for the people who did all the campaigning so that younger people can have pubs and clubs and organizations and support.
and what advice would you give to a young person or young people today?
Young, yeah, people are young, what
Yeah, LGBTQIA plus people.
plus people. I don't think there's very much I could say that would be valid in their world. My world was very different, especially the trans community. I don't know how you hold your head. I don't know how you get out of bed in the morning if you're trans. I really don't. And I do reading about them, and I do. You know, I listen to Instagram and you know all that stuff, and I watch documentaries, and I see the hate, and I would talk to people, you know, when I'm in company, and you know, whether it be family, my own family, or people, older people, and they think, you know, they still have very old-fashioned ideas, you know, about what trans people go through, and you know, I said like trying to convince them that just like me in my day, we were trying to survive. We were trying to not drink ourselves into oblivion, you know, before we came out, or even after we came out. But you know, we were trying to survive. We were trying to find our place in the world and trying to be safe and trying to feel safe and trying to survive that all the misinformation and stuff. And as a trans person, we're right back much more so because they're being murdered. You know, they're just been seen as I remember a couple of years ago there was a state in New York where there were mostly trans, Latinos and black people. They were murdering them, but they were burning them and leaving them beside what they call dumpsters. So they were trash. How do you, I don't, I couldn't possibly, you know, all I could tell them would be like, just find a group of people who support you and love you and try and make your way to them somewhere because those people are out there. You know, that It Gets Better campaign that ran a few years ago, and I thought it was a wonderful campaign. Like, it gets better.
Yeah.
And in this era where so many young men take their own lives, I am absolutely of the opinion that a lot of them take their own lives because they can't face their sexuality or sexuality or gender. Um, and just assuring people that there is organizations and there are people out there who will love you and protect you and fight for you. If you're not trans, if you're LGBT, it's shitloads easier now than it was. Fuck. You know, I hit the phrase like grow a set, you know, just get up, go to Google, find out where to go and take no fucking prisoners.
Yeah, protect your spaces.
Your
Don't let
spaces,
them go.
and be prepared. I'm very adamant about this, and not just as regards sexuality or gender, but in general. If your family don't support you, walk the fuck away, because you will find a family who will love you and support you and laugh with you and get drunk with you. And you don't need people in your life who aren't for you. I was lucky when I came out. I'm the youngest in my family. I'm the blue eye of six. Um, and when I came out, I was lucky. I had a lot of acceptance. Had a few. My brother took a while, and one of my sisters took a while, but the rest of them were all great. I got a lot of support, from family that I really didn't think I was going to get. I really thought it would be like this. Well, I want to tell you something, and then telling them and thinking, right, I'm on the bus to Belfast. I really didn't think I was going to get it. I knew one sister, my youngest sister, um, who's, as I say, she's 8 years older than me, and I knew that she would stand by me, so she was the first one I told. Very regret. I mean, I found out later that she already knew that somebody I told had told her, or somebody who suspected I was gay had told her, I really think you're Shane's gay. Um, and she had manipulated herself into a situation, and I remember saying to her, I've something to tell you, because I had been very down, and everybody knew I was down, and because I was constantly fighting in my head. Tell them, don't tell them, tell them, don't tell them, tell them, don't. What should I tell them? Who should I tell? And it was, my mental health was gone. It was really, really bad. Living in Croydon at the time, and she came around Sunday morning. She was hungover and said, you're not yourself. And is there anything you want to tell me? And I said yes. And then I said, I have to go to the loo. And I went upstairs and sat in the bathroom thinking literally like this, fuck, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I came down, and I can't remember how long it took, but I eventually said to her. And she was really accept, even though I knew that she would be accepting. It was the fact that she was accepting was like somebody just taking 100 weight of cement off my back. It was just, oh my God, I've said the words to a family member. And then she one by one told the rest, and I got all of my family, my five siblings all accepted me. Um, and to this day, some of them are dead now, but to this day, you know, um, would be very, very defensive of me. Anybody says anything against it.
And so just to end on a positive, Shane, you're happily married now, 25 years,
21 years with the
21
same
years,
man.
with two lovely wee cockapoo
Mm-hmm.
dogs,
Yes,
Buddy and Bailey.
Buddy and Bailey. It's been a long journey. When you think 28, so I'm so almost 39 years from I came out. And it's been a long journey, and lots of ups and lots of downs and lots of laughs and lots of crying. A few relationships that were tragic. Um, and not only it was two people in a relationship, so I made them tragic as well. Um, and one of the things about getting older is that you look at life differently. And I've grown a lot as a man, grown a lot as a gay man, learned a lot about acceptance, and met 80 on Gaydar before Grinder or anything. Thank God Grinder wasn't available. So gaydar.co.uk, we chat room just, and we arranged to meet. And I met him. I thought he was driving a really nice car, nice BMW, and he wore suit and tie. And I wasn't. If you could look at me now and imagine that I was shaved head, tattooed, pierced, um, you know, 501 jeans and Dr. Martin boots and white t-shirt. That look, I used to call it Compton Street drag, because everybody in Compton Street in London was wearing it. And I met him, and so we're still together from that day. Um, why he's 14 years younger than me, why he wanted he's a completely different person than me. and we're very happily married. And we have this, 3 bedroom, semi-detached house in suburbia with the 2 cockapoos and a nice car at the door and holidays and far too many clothes and trainers and no drama. And I don't know how I got here. Really, sometimes I think, how did I get here? Um, and a completely different story is part of the reason is, I when I was 30 years ago, I stopped drinking and drugging. It had become a monster, and I had become a monster with it. And the gay community is really, it's quite prolific. I mean, that was before the whole chemsex generation, but I've just become a monster in it. And I had my own business, and I was successful, and I was miserable. And Eddie he wouldn't even have looked at me twice. I mean, he's not that type of man. But also, he had never been on scene. I'm his first relationship. So, yeah, I don't know why. I still don't know why he stays. But I'm so glad he does, because I suppose when I came out of relating it back to the story, I didn't think I didn't come out thinking of love and thinking of relationships and any of that. I just came out thinking you would meet some other gay people and have sex with them. And I had started, no, like digress lady, but I had my first sex with a boy when I was 13, with an older boy who was 15. So I knew sex, but I didn't know anything about love and affection and relationships and all of that. And my early relationships, when I came out, were damaging. They weren't. I didn't know. I didn't know how. How do you know something when you're straight? You start dating girls or boys when you're, well, 13, 14. Those very first fumblings into sex and sexuality, and you grow up with them, and you know. And I was 28. I was 28 and just thrown into the middle. And people said, but you'd had girlfriends. And yeah, I did. But the dynamics of a man on man relationship are infinitely different than a man on woman relationship. They're not even close to being related. And too many egos in the one relationship was not something I was prepared for. I really wasn't. I didn't know, oh, fuck. So yeah, 21 years, lots of relationships. And literally, I could talk for days on the stuff that I've done as a gay man. The, the things I've done for relationships. I mean, I went to America. I went to America when I couldn't. I was refused. I couldn't get into America, so I had to be smuggled across the border. I was an illegal immigrant. No idea.
The things we do for love.
But the things we do for love, and 21 years with your man, it's really boring and it's really bland, and I fucking love my life with the dogs and with the car and with the garden in the summer and this lovely home that we have. I was a 28-year-old man. That was not on my future. That was not on my list. And the only thing, if we want to end up with something positive, negative, whatever, the only thing I would like before I die is to be able to walk down whatever street I want, whatever street I happen to be in, holding his hand, and it not be a political statement. I don't want it to be a political statement. I don't want people even smiling at me saying, that is not nice. I just want people to fucking ignore it, for it to be the most natural. The way exactly we do with straight people, we see them holding hands. Maybe if they're older, you see the older couple holding hands, you think, that is so sweet after all those years of them. And get married to him. But I can't hold his hand because I still feel threatened. I still feel that somebody's going to at least say something, shout something abusive. It may lead to physical violence still. And so there's no peace into it. And every single time that I've held his hand in public, I have, after a while, taken it away because somebody's coming. And at 67, every time I do that, a little part of me dies. A little part of my pride dies. And that's what I hate about pride. Everybody parties and that's wonderful. But I'm just say half of the people who are at Pride, if they put a Pride flag out on Pride Week, it might be a statement rather than just a place to get drunk. So yeah, I would love to be able to walk down the street because I think that would be a much better. You're talking about young people coming out now. I think if young people in their town or in their when they come to Belfast or whatever, if they see more gay people just walking down the street holding hands, I think that would make life so much easier for them because they would see it normalized, whatever that is, and see it as ordinary and it's visual and they're not afraid and they would see that as just part of life. And I don't think that's going to happen in my lifetime. And that's a sad reflection on our society.
Well, you never know. Watch this space. And but Shane, that's been an amazing story, amazing amount of stories. And so I'd just like to say thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And thank you for coming on our podcast, Queer at Age. If you want to hear more, like and subscribe to the channel. And we look forward to seeing you at future events. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed listening to this episode and enjoy the Queer at Age series, please consider following us and subscribing to our social media channels. It would really help put us on the map and help other people find us. Thank you for your continued support.